Hello, creative crafting friends. Before we get too far into today's crafts, I do want to mention that yes, I realize I look a little bit rough. It's been an interesting week. At any rate, my catching skills could use a little work, and I got hit in the face with a softball. It actually is much improved from a couple of days ago. But anyways, that's not what we're here to see. We are here to see some crafts. And today's crafts focus on 1 Kings chapter 19. This is a fun passage to talk about, and an important one too, to look at with kids as we see the prophet Elijah and how, in his despair, God was there. God always took care of him and provided for him, no matter what, in various ways. Well, the part of the story that we're really focusing on is how God appeared to Elijah not in the big wind or the earthquake or the fire, but in a still small voice whisper. So we're going to make a couple of crafts that celebrate that today. Now, the first one we're going to make is a little bit strange, and there's a couple of angles that you can take on this, but we're going to make a bag of sounds. This is kind of a fun craft and game activity at the same time because we're going to be decorating a bag and filling it with some items that make various noises. The idea here is that you can kind of play this with different kids or siblings and try to identify what the noises are that we put in the bag. So first, we're going to decorate our bag. I have here just a plain lunch bag. You can use a white one or a brown one or whatever you like. And we can write something like, what's that sound? Now, you can, of course, as I said, take various angles on this. You could do it with some other kind of a sense. You could be, what's that touch, or what's that taste? You could also turn this into a snack bag if you want to focus on the part of the story where Elijah was taken care of and God basically said, here, have a nap, have a snack, get back up and go again. Then you could make this into a snack bag and you could fill it with little snacks for your friends. But we're going to talk about sounds. Listen for God's still small voice. And then, of course, as always, you can decorate this with all sorts of fun things. I'm going to throw on some stickers if you're feeling adventurous and you want to put on some glitter or some beads or some gems or something like that. Go for it. Go to town, have fun. But here is the outside of my bag decorated now. Here are some suggested ideas for what you can put inside. Of course, there are a number of options for what you can put inside. The idea is that, well, we are making sounds. So maybe the bag itself kind of makes a fun sound, doesn't it? Maybe you've got some snacks, some chips or granola bars or something that's going to make a fun crinkly sound. I'll make some good noise. And yes, this is my airline snack mix that I save and usually don't actually ever eat again, but I have to save it because they give it to me. Anyways, we've got that. You could do something small like I've got sticks, kind of make a sound. I've got a balloon. This one, of course, you can't really make a sound out of a balloon without blowing it up, but it would make a good sound if maybe the other person was blindfolded. You could even have a straw and blow it in someone's face for that very small still sound. Or you could have maybe some dry pasta in a cup. You'll want to cover that cup, by the way. Hopefully you have a lid. Or this is one of my personal favorites. The ever-soothing bubble wrap. Just never gets old, does it? Anyway, so you get the idea. You have your various sounds in your bag, and now you have a fun game that you can play with your friends. And then if you want, you can add some extra decorations. You could tie a ribbon on top of here and maybe give it to someone and say, okay, this is actually a game. We're going to make some sounds, and let's see if you can tell what sounds they are. And maybe you even want to say, let's remember how many sounds you heard in my bag of mystery sound science. Or if you want to really simplify this, you just put one sound in here. You can shake it. and see if you can figure out what's in there. Lots of options, but the idea is we are listening. So that's craft number 1. Now craft number 2 kind of goes into the dynamics of the story. We're going to make a fun little story wheel of sorts. So we're going to have 2 paper plates that we're going to use for this. Now on the first paper plate, we're going to divide this into quadrants. That's 4 pieces to you and me. So you can use a ruler if you want to be real precise, or you can just eyeball it like this. And we're going to mark the different parts of the story. So we're going to have first there was a big, mighty wind. And you can draw pictures or put 3-dimensional elements of this. So maybe you want to draw a big cloud like a wind, or maybe you want to use one of those fun props like the balloon, because the balloon kind of reminds me of wind. So you have your mighty wind, whoosh. Then you can put that however you like. Then we have our earthquake. It's kind of earth, wind, and fire here. And maybe you've got some rocks that could represent the earthquake. Or if you're feeling very creative here, maybe you have some pom-poms to represent those falling rocks from the earthquake. Or you could also, again, you could just draw these pictures too. But, you know, sometimes it's fun to be a little extra creative. So there's my glue. There's my earthquake. Now the 3-dimensional elements are going to get a little tricky momentarily, but don't worry about that just yet. So now we've got fire. And remember, this is to recount the story from 1 Kings 19. God was not in the big wind or the earthquake or the fire. So I'm going to make a little fire here. Use some orange paper to be fiery. And I'm going to add some sparkles because I like having excuses to add sparkles, okay? That's just what we do here sometimes. And sparkles. So we've got our dynamics, and now don't forget, where was God? In the still small whisper. So here, a whisper is a bit hard to illustrate. Maybe that could be the pom-poms because it's something a little bit softer. I'm just going to draw a happy little happy face here. But you can make it however you like. So now, here comes the other part. Plate number 2. Now you can kind of put this either which way. But plate number 2, we're going to need to cut a quadrant out of this, of course. So you will do this like so. You can trace it if you want it to be extra precise. Or you can hope for the best, like me, which could be my undoing, but we'll see what happens. So we've got our quadrant, pi quadrant, roughly. That wasn't bad. So now I'm going to decorate this and go with the element of the story. Where is God? Listen. I'll say listen up for his voice. Now I'm going to add on, of course, this is the part that you can make it however you like it to be. I'm going to add on an extra little caption that says, I'm going to put 1 Kings 19. Elijah, we'll say Elijah met God, so I remember the story. And maybe you've got some other elements that you want to throw on there. Maybe you've got, I happen to have a fun little cross that I'm going to put on there to remember that Jesus reminds us of who God is. But anyways, that's up to you. You can add whatever you'd like to add there. And this will help the kids to recount and recall the story. So now we're going to put in, this is the tricky part, we're going to need one of these handy dandy brad fasteners. And sometimes you can poke these straight through, sometimes you need to pre-poke a hole. We're going to poke that through the paper plate. And now I'm going to poke it through the center of my other paper plate. And we're going to make a spinning wheel to tell the story here. So this is the part where I said the three-dimensional elements might make it harder for this to spin properly. Oops, that was not centered. Let's try that again. There we go. But as long as you don't fasten your fastener too terribly tight, you should be okay. So now we can tell the story of how God came to Elijah on Mount Horeb. Now, he was not in the mighty wind and balloon. He was not in the big crazy earthquake. Woo! He was not even in the fire. God came in stillness. And sometimes he comes to us in stillness, and we least expect to hear that whisper. But we know that he is always with us no matter what. Whether we hear him the way we think we should, whether we feel him the way that we think we should, he's always, always there. And that's the important thing that we want to communicate to kids with this story, is that God is always with us, protecting, providing for us, and comforting us. Maybe not in the ways that we would think or even the ways that we would hope. Maybe not in the timing that we would think or hope. But he is there and he is with us. Hopefully that's some fun, creative ideas to craft away this story from 1 Kings 19. And hopefully you like it enough to come back for more ideas to help your ministry wherever and with whomever that might be. We do have new children's messages and crafts posted every week, and hopefully the bruises will fade away by next time. So go make some crafts, make some disciples, and have a wonderful and safe and healthy and happy week. See you next time.